Rush St. Pierre making his return to the UFC after several years. George, thank you for joining us here on the 5 Rounds podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So how has the car wash been like? Has it been a busy day so far?
Yeah, I mean, we just started, so it's going to be a lot more to come.
Oh, good. So all the stock questions I can ask out of the way so that you have practice saying them for other shows, right?
Yes, no problem.
Let's start with the moment you retired. You were gone for several years from the octagon. What were some of the highlights for you just being away from the cage? What did you get up to?
Well, I've always been training, but I was able to, to take some day off and stuff, traveling. I'm a big fan of paleontology, so I was around. I was able to travel the world, visit some sites, and things that I didn't have the mind and also the time to do before.
So you were doing a lot of traveling, and while you were traveling, how often did fighting come into your head? I mean, you said you were always traveling, but just the idea of competition.
Every day.
Every single day.
It's been 4 years in the making that I've been preparing mentally that particular moment in Madison Square Garden that will happen Saturday, November 4th, live on pay-per-view.
Yes. So tell me the moment that you decided, I have to come back to the octagon. I have to fight again. I have to fight competitively. Can you take me through that moment and how long ago it was?
I knew I wanted to come back, but I didn't know when. When they start to implement the test, the test for performance enhancing drug, it really was something that got me. I was very happy because
this was a big deal for you.
It was a big deal. It was a lot of guys, a lot of the heroes in the sport have fall because of that. So I knew it was a big problem. Like a lot of people thought I was paranoid and stuff like that, but it was everybody knew inside, But the people from the outside, they thought it was not true. But that was a big turning point. And then after the negotiation with my agent and the UFC took place, it took a long time. Then finally it happened.
So let's talk about the fight itself. I mean, obviously you were the king of the welterweight division for so many years. Here you are coming back fighting for the middleweight championship. How much of a sticking point was that for you to fight in a different weight class upon your return?
Well, it's not like I've been deciding to do it like yesterday. I hire a nutrition coach, so it's been since April that I follow a severe disciplined diet to put more muscle mass on myself, and it's been doing very well. So I'm perfectly suited for that task.
I find it interesting that one of the clauses in your contract is should you win the middleweight championship, you have to defend the middleweight championship.
Yeah, if I win, I cannot go. They say I cannot go down, fight Woodley or fight another guy. I have to fight Whittaker, and it's normal because they don't want the value of the title. I understand UFC is a business, and the title been been going up, going around. McGregor did it, so a few guys did it, so they don't want this thing repeated again.
And it seems like that's sort of what's happening among the elite fighters, right? We heard before John Jones's issues, he was going to go up to heavyweight and fight for the heavyweight title. Like when I heard that you were returning and you were going to fight for the middleweight championship, I know that this is all speculation, but in my head, the career path that I saw for George St. Pierre was win the middleweight championship, win the welterweight championship, challenge a guy like Conor McGregor. I have 2 championships. You have 2 championships. This is the biggest fight the UFC could ever make. I mean, was that something that was circling in your head? Did you have a plan sort of like that?
It was a little bit of the plan, but now I have to follow the rules of the UFC. I put on a lot of weight for this fight, even though ultimately middleweight is, it's not really my weight. But I do it for the competition, because it's the biggest thing that can happen right now in the sport. And I'm very happy. I'm always up to the biggest challenge as possible. I don't ask for nothing less. And it's in the Madison Square Garden, so I cannot ask for a better scenario than this. But it's been hard. It was a very hard regime to follow. I have to shovel food down my throat all the time. And even though I'm not hungry, I need to eat. And it's been 6 months like this, so it's not a very healthy way of living, to when you force yourself to eat, but I had no choice to do it in a natural way.
How much weight do you have to cut for the fight?
Oh, it's going to be very easy, 10 pounds.
That's it. Okay. Well, let's talk about Michael Bisping.
Less than 10 pounds.
Less than 10 pounds?
Actually, right now, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about Michael Bisping. Tell us because obviously we've seen you guys together a lot at appearances at hockey games, backstage at the Hall of Fame, Hockey Hall of Fame, just in public a lot. But what was your relationship like with Michael Bisping before this fight was announced?
Michael is a fierce competitor. I think he's a great human being. He's a father. He's got a beautiful family. I saw the UFC promotion and embedded. He's a guy who's got a great life. A dream life. Now you live in a nice, beautiful house, drive nice car, beautiful family. He seemed very happy. But he's a fierce competitor, and now I'm fighting him. So he's not my friend right now. He does everything as possible to try to get on my nerve and play mind game. So, I'm ready for it.
Has he said anything throughout the lead up to this fight that really has gotten under your skin or you thought was offside?
Well, he says I was like, I don't even think he believed that himself, that I was cheating. And this is personal for me because that's the reason why I love the sport. And that's why, this is integrity as a human being, like this is more than, it's outside of promotion, it's your integrity. And I've done a lot of things. I'm not a perfect human being. And one thing that I'm not a coward and I'm not a cheater. People that use ways to cheat, I believe, is because they coward, because it's like you bring, in a fist fight, you bring a knife and, that's what it is, performance enhancing drug, So I'm not a coward, I'm not afraid. I'm confident in my ability and I'm going to beat him and beat him the right way.
So the fight will be on Saturday, and there's been a lot of talk about retirement. I mean, Michael Bisping has said he might retire from the sport, win or lose. You have said you might retire from the sport if you lose. I mean, where is your mind going into this fight regarding that subject?
I'm thinking about the fight itself. That's it. I don't think about what happened in the fight. I feel like my life will end November 4th, and after that will be a new chapter. We'll improvise.
So this podcast is largely listened to by longtime MMA fans, so they certainly know who Georges St-Pierre is. And one of the narratives going into this fight is that you've been gone for so many years that there's a whole crop of new MMA fans that may not have ever really watched Georges St-Pierre fight live.
Yes.
So it's almost like a reintroduction of one of the greatest fighters of all time. Is that sort of weird for you that you're coming into this scenario where it's almost like you have to, Jay-Z, allow me to reintroduce myself?
No, it's great for me. If they don't know me, they will know me after Saturday night. This I can guarantee you.
When you defend the middleweight championship, let's say you win the middleweight championship from Michael Bisping, what kind of champion would you like to be? Because we're seeing two different types of champions in the UFC right now. One that is happy, the Bushido spirit, going through the rankings, cleaning out the division like you did in the welterweight division so many years ago. And then the one that's more interested in the big money fights, make me the most amount of money. Where does Georges St-Pierre land on that?
Well, ultimately, I believe, you talk about big money fight, I believe, as long as you make the UFC and the fans happy and yourself happy, that's the goal, And sometimes you say big money fight, they're the fight that makes everybody happy most of the time, like the fight that picked the curiosity of all the fans and stuff like that, So I gotta do the right thing, but also in the same time I want to please the fans. We do the sport because of the fans. The fans, they're the one that make us live, and they're the one that ultimately should have the control over who fighting who.
A couple more questions for you. One of the things that I remember vividly about Georges St-Pierre is just the fact that there might be a lot of animosity between you and your opponent before a fight, but afterwards there's always a show of respect. I mean, Josh Koscheck is the perfect example, right? Just the amount of animosity going into that fight. You win the fight, and then there's a lot of respect shown, and you are very well known for that. And I know that you've trained with guys like Jake Shields in the past. What's your relationship like with some of your past opponents?
I don't hate nobody. Everybody I've fought, if let's say they would be in trouble and they would need my help, I will go in a blink of an eye. There is nobody. There are some guys that I fought that I would, not that I dislike them, but I would rather not be friend with. I don't have any common interest with them, so to speak. But most of them, I have nothing personal against any of them.
So in the last 4 years in the UFC, there's been a lot of new markets that have opened up, and we're very familiar with Georges St-Pierre fighting in Montreal. I'll end on this. If put the retirement talk aside, let's assume Georges St-Pierre has a long second career in the UFC. Will we see Georges St-Pierre fight in Montreal again?
Yes.
Great. That's all I need to hear. And are there any markets that you have noticed in the last few years that intrigue you in terms of fighting there?
I would like in France. France is illegal now, and I think they can use me because my descendant, my origin, I'm from Canada, but my origin is French, so they can use me to promote a fight there. I think it would be a good thing.
So Georges St-Pierre will be fighting Michael Bisping for the middleweight championship at Madison Square Garden, UFC 217. Is it cool to be fighting at Madison Square Garden?
Of course, it's a medical place, plus New